Hey there, I'm Eggfur and thanks for being here today. So what I'm going to show you today is a new minecart loader. I did a minecart loader 2 weeks ago. It was specifically for where you put items into a chest above the rail and the minecart will come pick all of those items up. This one is designed for a hopper feed into your loading station, and it works really, really well. It has all the same functions as the last one, and I'll quickly talk you through those. Okay, so the first thing is that if this minecart comes back to the loader empty and there's nothing to pick up over here, then it'll stop in place and it'll just rest there until more items are fed in. So if I now feed some items in, so let's put in, say, 32 kelp, and that'll start to flow through this hopper line and down into the minecart. And the core mechanic, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment, but as this is getting pulled down by the minecart, they don't actually ever appear in the chest. So the minecart takes all those items and sets off again. Then if the minecart ever gets full, so let's simulate that, like so, and we'll put some more items in here. So there's only a little bit of space in this minecart now. It'll go back. It'll pick up as many items as it can. And as soon as it gets full and it can't pick up any more items, then it sets off again to distribute those. And what you'll see here now is I have one item in the chest. And that's how I can tell that the minecart can't pick anything else up. And that mechanism was actually brought to my attention by someone called Gem Mixon on Reddit. They did a post of a minecart loader which had similar functionality to this. Using this technique, I'd been trying to design it with a different mechanism, and it was much larger. Actually, their system was larger as well and had slightly different functionality. This has got exactly what I want and hopefully what you want. So it's a lot smaller, and it's actually the same size as my last loader, which is 5 by 6 by 2 wide. So really pleased with that, and we'll go and have a look at how to build it. So hopefully you think this is as cool as I do, and I will also link the previous design down in the description below, and I'm going to do a third design where it's not a hopper minecart that's coming to pick up the items, it's a chest minecart. That design will be more complicated. I'm warning you now. You can't use the same mechanism I've used in either of the previous two designs. So that will be more complicated. But if you want to see that, then subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified when that comes up.
Okay, so let's dive straight in.
And I'm going to show you the mechanics and how this works at the end of the build. So if you want to see that, then hang around after we've done the build and I'll explain it all to you. This is where we're going to build our system, and I'm going to lay down a rail line, so a couple of blocks, and then run your rail line on top of some blocks along here. It can be, as long as you want, wherever you want it to go to. And I'm going to use a powered rail at the end here with a normal rail there, and that just allows me to stop my minecart on here. And then I'm going to have powered rails all the way along up to here where I want a detector rail, another detector rail on top of here to make this one angle up. I can break that, don't need it anymore. So of course, depending on where you're going, how your system's configured, you'll have a mix of powered and unpowered rails along here, potentially going off to your super smelter, your base, whatever it is. Okay, on top of the detector rail, place a chest, and on top of this last powered rail, place a fence gate, just like that. Now come round the back, you can place a block here with a comparator on top, a comparator on top of here as well, reading that chest, and I'm going to put a hopper here. Now place blocks on top of this comparator and this comparator, and your last comparator goes just there. So I'm reading the hopper from here, I'm reading this chest through this one, and I'm reading the detector rail through this one. So come to the front here and come 2 blocks out from this comparator. And we're going to place a torch now on both of those blocks on the side here. Just here, I want to have a repeater. Should have grabbed that earlier. Some other stuff as well whilst I'm here. So a repeater just there with some redstone dust in front of it and a block in front of this comparator with a torch on it. And this is basically implementing a bunch of logic for whether we want items to be in or not in these systems in order to release a minecart. And then down here, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 dust starting from underneath this furthest torch. You want a repeater on 3 ticks, just like that. Then a block here, a block against the side of the fence, and a torch just here. So that will control now whether my fence opens or not. And the last thing we need is I need a way of locking this top hopper when there is an item in the chest. So item in the chest is going to turn this comparator on. And I'm going to lock the hopper with this piece of dust. Then I want 2 more blocks down here. That comparator in the middle here is going to power this dust. And then I want a repeater coming back on 1 tick this way. And that is your whole system complete. Okay. With the exception that we should power our rail here. And I'll need a lever at the start here to turn it on and off. Okay, so you can come out this way with your hopper line, and it's worth saying that all of the stuff on this side at the moment can be mirrored into this side instead. So if you've got it so you want actually your hoppers to come out this way, you can just pick all of this stuff up, shift it over, mirror it. So these 2 torches would be here and here instead, with your dust going underneath and so on. Okay, let's put some chest up here, throw some items in, and they should get picked up by the minecart. And as soon as it's got to 32 items, which hopefully won't take too long, then it'll get released. Here we go. And if it comes back with items and there's nothing more to pick up, it'll get released. And let's just do a final test. Put some more items in and it should stop to pick those up. There we go. So that's it. It's actually really simple to build. It looks a bit complicated in terms of logic, and we'll go through the mechanics of why this works and how it works next. So the way I'm going to explain the mechanics on this is by building it again. So I've destroyed all the circuits there. And the first thing we talked about was if a minecart's empty, then I want it to go along the track and get stuck behind this fence gate, which absolutely does at the moment by default because this fence gate's closed. But I do need a way of opening and closing the fence gate. And I'm doing that with a torch. And because this torch is powered, as soon as I place a block above it, that will power the fence gate and open it. That's kind of the opposite of what I want. What I want is that if a minecart's empty, the gate stays closed. So how am I going to do that? I'm using this detector rail. And the detector rail tells me whether there are items in the minecart or not. So if I place a comparator here, this is off at the moment because there's no minecart. But even if my minecart comes along the track, that comparator stays off because there are no items in that minecart. And I can use that now to power, therefore, this block the torch is on. But to do that, I need to invert the signal with the torch. And then I can run dust along here. I'm going to put a repeater here on 3 ticks. And I'll explain why I'm doing that a bit later. So now this is powered, that turns this torch off and therefore closes the gate. So my empty minecart stays in place. If it had items in it, then the torch goes off and the gate gets opened. So now it'll come back empty and get stuck in place. Okay. So the next mechanism I wanted to show you was the one where the items are flowing through. And to do that, I want to break this block for the time being, so I want the gate to stay shut. And if I put items into the top here, in the hopper, you'll see they start to flow out. You can see they're flowing into the minecart hopper underneath, but they never appear in a chest. And the reason for that is that this minecart hopper is sucking them out so quickly that we never get to see them. And that's why this system won't work with a minecart with chest, because even if you put a hopper here, say, instead of a chest, the items wouldn't flow down quickly enough to keep this chest empty. So they're all through now. And that's an important point as well, right? So this chest is empty. There are two situations where it's empty. One is if the minecart's sucking items down. And the second is if there are no items at all, right? So if there's no items, the chest is always going to be empty. And if it's sucking them down, I want to keep the minecart in place. And if there's no items at all, but there are items in the minecart, I want to release the minecart. So I've got to work out those two different things. How am I going to go about doing that? Well, I can tell if there's anything in the chest with a comparator here. And I can tell if there's anything in the hopper with a comparator just here. Okay, so if a chest is empty, this is going to be off. That means that a repeater here will be off. And some redstone dust here will be off. And if that's off, then my redstone light's going to be lit. My torch will be off. And I can replace this block down. This stays closed. So if there's nothing in here at the moment, this is all going to stay closed in place. But I want to know if this is empty. So if this is empty and this is empty, I actually want to open it. So I need a way of powering my dust here, unpowering the torch and powering this line if this is empty. So it's empty at the moment. This comparator's off. Place a block here. And that means that if this is off, the torch here will be on. Powers this dust, turns the torch off, lights the line, and releases our minecart. Okay, let me break this block again for a minute. And I'm actually going to get rid of the minecart too. So the other thing is that when the minecart comes back, if there are lots of items waiting in this chest, then it'll take it a little while to suck them out, which means that this will stay on, and therefore it'll actually end up releasing the minecart. And I don't want that. So what I need to do is make sure that I don't get a build-up of items in this chest. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to detect if I've got items, any items in the chest. I'm using that comparator again. That will light this dust here. And you'll only ever light it signal strength 1 because I only want one item in here. So then I need a repeater just there to extend that signal into this block and onto this dust, which because it's forming across will be powering this hopper over there. So now if I have any items in my chest, then the hopper will get locked by this dust as soon as I have one item in there. So now when my minecart comes back, let's pop him down. The first thing that will happen is he'll suck that item out of the chest and the comparator will go off. That allows the gate to stay closed. So yeah, that's pretty much the system. The only other thing to show you is if I grab, let me grab these out of here. This should now work out that it's got nothing else to pick up, he says. Oh, if I put my block back here, will. Now I've got nothing to pick up, so off it goes again. It's got items in there. And the question is, why is this repeater on 3 ticks? And the reason is that if I put items back in here, what you'll see is that this torch here goes off just slightly before this torch comes on. And that means that this line goes off and it opens my fence gate just for 1 tick, but that's enough to release the minecart. So by putting this on, actually on 2 ticks I think is enough. But I first have it on 3 ticks for safety. By putting it on 3 ticks, that makes sure that we've got time to light this torch after this one's gone off and keep the minecart in place. And that's all there is to it. So yeah, so hopefully that was understandable and made sense to you. And if you want my version, which uses a chest minecart instead of a hopper minecart, then that will be coming next. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.